Sup you beautiful people, hope you've had a fantastic day. Welcome back to another new episode of What If Naruto Was the New Raikage. After succeeding in retrieving Sasuke, Naruto was banished from Konoha due to the council's fear of the Akatsuki coming after him and destroying Konoha. 10 years later, after being banished, Naruto becomes the new Raikage of Kumo and leads it to greatness. If you guys enjoy this what if, comment down below and let me know. And go ahead and check out other what ifs in the channel after watching this video. Don't forget to shower some appreciation onto the incredible author responsible for this fanfiction. The link is conveniently waiting for you in the description down below. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and also share this video with your friends. So now let's start this video. I guess this is it, thought Tenten sadly as she thought how her life was now about to end, and how she would now leave her parents alone, and how the one regret she had was not to try and have a family which she had hoped to have later on in her life. A few meters away, Kakashi and the others saw the swords descending down on Kurenai and the others. "Hinata, no!" cried Neji as he tried to get to his cousin, but was blocked by one of the Kiri Jonins. "Tenten!" cried Sakura. "Kurenai!" yelled Kakashi just as the blades of the sword were about to reach them. An unknown voice suddenly cried out, "Byakurai, white lightning!" After which a bolt of white lightning came from the sky and hit the Kiri Jonin, who was about to kill Hinata square in the chest, killing him immediately and sending back several meters away and completely destroying his chest. Raijuda and the other Jonin then started to look around for who had fired the attack, since as soon as they heard the attack, they had jumped away to avoid the attack. They were also joined by the other two Jonins who had been fighting Kakashi and the others, since when they saw the attack, they thought it best that they stick together with others with the arrival of a new enemy. As this was happening, Kurenai, Hinata and Tenten opened their eyes when they did not feel the swords cutting through them, and when they heard the unknown attack that had saved them. When they opened them, their eyes they immediately grew wider with complete shock, like everyone's eyes in the surrounding area. Since floating down from the sky and landing gently onto the ground like some kind of deity descending down from the heavens was the Raikage, who now stood in front of Kurenai and the others with his back to them, and was surrounded by lightning which could be seen sparking all around his body for a minute or so until it finally died down. The Raikage wore the traditional hat of a Kage with the color being yellow and the symbol of lightning on it. He also wore a mask similar to Kakashi where it covered his lower face and only allowed his bright blue emotionless eyes to be seen. The Raikage also had on him a blue long coat with 3 tails and a white lightning-like pattern on the right side of the coat, as well as black lightning blots at the edges of the coat, and at kanji for storm on the back of it in black. He also wore a short-sleeve black t-shirt with ambu chest plate and black fingerless gloves. He also had black jeans and boots with steel tips and had a black strap around his shoulders. The strap helped what looked to be a sword which was covered in clothed that was on his back in its place. "The Raikage," spoke Kurenai out loud as she quickly recognized him, and surprising both Hinata and Tenten, who did not know who he was until she said it. "The Raikage, what he doing here? This battle doesn't involve Kumo or the Heavenly Alliance. Let's just hope he isn't here to fight us. Since in our currently we wouldn't stand a chance against him," though Kakashi as he looked at the Raikage, where he could not help but shiver slightly as he looked into the Raikage cold, emotionless bright blue eyes that spoke of immense power, yet also seemed familiar to him in some way. At the same time, when he looked at the Raikage, he felt a sort of powerful essence about him, which made him and everyone around the Raikage feel a combination of fear and respect for him, although mainly fear. He remembered Sakura describing it to him and the feeling she felt, but yet her words did not do the feeling justice, and could not help but hope and pray that the Raikage was somehow on their side, otherwise they would be finished. So this is the infamous Raikage that all the other great shinobi nations fear, thought Sasuke as he carefully analyzed the Raikage. As he did, he could not help but shiver slightly like Kakashi as he felt the Raikage immense power that was emanating from him. "The Raikage, what the hell is he doing here?" thought Raijutsu with a slight panic, since like in Iwa with the Yondaime Hokage, the Rokudaime Raikage was both feared and hated in Kiri, although mainly feared. Raijuda himself had to admit that like most Kiri shinobis, he greatly feared the Raikage, which showed as both he and his all men subconsciously took a step or two back as they saw him looking directly at them. After a minute or so of just standing there and looking at Raijuda, the Raikage turned slightly to Kurenai, Hinata and Tenten, but looked directly at Kurenai and spoke in a calm voice. We met again, Kurenai-san, and it seems that once again my people and I have come to your rescue from Kiri. Kurenai, who was still slightly shocked at the Raikage timely appearance, could only nod at her and say, "Hi." The Raikage then put his hand into his right pocket and took out a small pill bottle and threw it to Kurenai, who caught the bottle. "Take one of the pills from the bottle and give the rest to your comrades and the wave defenders. The pills are the antidote to the poison that you all been infected with. They will take effect with a minute or so of taking them," spoke the Raikage as he then turned to face Raijuda and his men. "Isurugi Raijuda, you and your forces are to cease your attack on this village and your invasion of Nami no Kuni, Wave Country, which was illegal from the start, and leave this country immediately. If you do not do this, then you and your men will die here," spoke the Raikage coldly. Gathering himself, Raijuda stood forward. "We do not take order from you, and our invasion of this country does not concern you. Besides, this is the way of the shinobi. The weak fall and make way for the strong." "Spoken like the idiotic barbarian that you are, just like your Mizukage," scoffed the Raikage. "You dare insult our Mizukage," spoke Raijuda angrily as he was forgetting who he was dealing with. "You will pay for insult as well as your crimes that you are guilty against Kiri and Mizu no Kuni, Water Country." "Crimes?" answered the Raikage mockingly, before speaking again in a dangerous tone of voice. "If there anyone who are guilty of crimes, it is you and your Mizukage, as well as that greedy cowardly fool the daimyo of Mizu no Kuni, for your parts in the genocide of most bloodline holders in Kiri and Mizu no Kuni, as well as the murder of countless innocent people. The extermination of those traitors and monsters was for the betterment and glory of Kiri and for Mizu no Kuni, where it will rise to being the greatest power in the shinobi world as it should be, and on that glory's day, we will march over the ruins your so-called heavenly alliance and of your village," said Raijuda angrily. "If you think that will happen, then you're more of a fool than I thought you were," replied the Raikage simply. "Enough of this, it's time for you to die, so that I can present your head to the Mizukage. Attack him," shouted Raijuda as he ordered his men to attack, who at first did not move, but after seeing the crazed look on Raijuda's face, they knew that if they did not, he would kill them himself. Quickly, the three Kiri Jonins surrounded the Raikage, believing that if they attacked him on all sides at once. The three Kiri Jonins quickly did several different hand seals, where each of them then cried out a different jutsu. "Suiton Heron Bansho Water Style, Stormy Blockade," cried the first Kiri Jonin, where he summoned a massive amount of water from the sky and have it crush the Raikage. "Suiton Deibukufu no Jutsu Water Style, Great Waterfall Technique," cried the second Kiri Jonin, where he summoned a strong column of water to attack the Raikage. "Suiton Hahenryu Water Style, Tearing Torrent," cried the third Kiri Jonin, where he created water that spirals in his hand and fired at a high speed at the Raikage. As the three attacks came in on three different sides, the Raikage stood perfectly still where he was, and just when the attacks were only a few feet away, the Raikage did a series of one-handed seals with incredible speed that made his hand look like a blur if people had tried to watch it. Just when the attacks were about to hit him, the Raikage finished his seals and called out, "Mizu no Tatsumaki, Tornado of Water," after which a massive water vortex appeared out the ground and surrounded the Raikage. The water vortex acted as a shield to the Raikage, where it blocked the water attacks, after which the water vortex absorbed the water and the attacking power of the water attacks to become more powerful. After which the water vortex expanded outward and then exploded outward with incredible force, hitting the surrounding Kiri Jonins and sending them flying and crashing into different directions and through building walls and knocking them unconscious. Kakashi and Kurenai and the others could not help but be amazed at how the Raikage so easily defeated the Kiri Jonins, as if they were nothing more than genins with just a single jutsu, and use it with such incredible force. Just as the Raikage defeated the three Kiri Jonins, Raijuda entered the fight and cried out, "Mate Izuna, Rapping Wind Spirit," after which Raijuda swung his sword downward to hit the ground, in which a massive wind blast attack surges from it and went towards the Raikage with great speed, where it tore up the ground as it traveled to him. As the attack speeded towards him, the Raikage did not move, letting the attack come closer towards him. When the attack was about hit him, he quickly raised his hand with his palms stretched out forward and then cried out, "Raihei, Lightning Wall." When the attack hit and massive explosion was caused, Raijuda grinned manically seeing this, thinking he had killed the Raikage, but that disappeared quickly. When the smoke dissipated and he saw the Raikage, with his hand still stretched out and was behind a large wall of electricity. When the Konoha team and the Wave defenders saw this, they were shocked at how the Raikage had so effortlessly stopped the attack as if it was nothing. "Is that it?" said the Raikage mockingly as he lowered his hand and the electric-made wall dissipated. "Since if it is, then you may as well leave now while you still have a chance." Raijuta just growled after hearing this, and before he could even reply, 7 people suddenly appear right beside the Raikage. Kurenai and Sakura quickly recognized the 4 of them as the Raikage bodyguards: Yujito, Yatsuki Killer B, Fu, and Okatsu. The other 3 were clearly members of Storm, since their masks were blue and black, although they were clearly not the same ones that they met at the hold, since they had different masks shaped like a leopard, a Baku, and a dragon. "Yo boss, you okay? We saw the explosion and thought you might be in trouble," spoke Killer B. "I fine B, thank you," replied the Raikage. "Would you like one of us to finish him off, Raikage-sama?" asked Leopard, who seemed to be the leader and was look at Raijuta, who in turn got nervous at the arrival of Killer B and the Raikage other bodyguards as well as the Storm Nins. "No, all of you are to go to them and stay out of it. I will finish this myself," spoke the Raikage as he pointed to the Konoha group and then stepped forward to face Raijuta by himself. While Killer B and the others went over to the Konoha group, who had now just recovered from the poison, thanks to the antidote that the Raikage gave Kurenai, who in turn passed it out to the others and the Wave defenders. "So you rather fight me yourself than have your men do it? Does that mean that you recognize my strength and that I would be too much for them?" sneered Raijuta arrogantly. "Hardly any one of my people there would have been too much for you to handle and could defeat you. The only reason why I told them to stay back was because I prefer to finish what I have started, even if it's dealing with trash like you," answered the Raikage, which enraged Raijuta at the Raikage insult. "We see about that, for you have yet to see my deadliest technique," cried Raijuta before he swung his sword again and cried out, "Tobi Izuna, jump wind spirit," when Raijuta swung his blade. A crescent-shaped air vacuum blade came from it at amazing speed, but when the crescent-shaped blade hit the Raikage, it just passed right through him, much to the shock of Raijuta, the Konoha team, and the Wave defenders. After a few seconds, the Raikage began to shimmer, and then fade away, showing it was not the real Raikage. "It seems that your deadliest technique is as unimpressive as your other techniques. The standards of the great swordsman of the mist must have indeed fallen very low to allow someone like you become a member of it," spoke the Raikage, who appeared to the left of Raijuta. "But how did he use some kind of Bunshin clone?" asked Kurenai out loud. "No, it wasn't a Bunshin," answered Yujito, who was standing near the Konoha group like the rest of her group and heard her. "It was a Zanzo after image." "A Zanzo?" asked Sakura. "Yes, a Zanzo is an old technique that the Raikage learned that was used by the first few ninjas when the first shinobi clans were forming. To do the technique, a person has to be extremely fast to do it. The technique involves a user moving at incredible high speed from one place to the other, where they are so fast that most people's eyes cannot keep up with the user, and where the user leaves an afterimage of the himself or herself, where it takes a few seconds for the image of the user to disappear, and for the people's eyes to realize that the person is gone. Although the learning of the technique became outdated when Bunshins were created, the few that know it in a certain aspect today only learned it by accident after training very hard in taijutsu and speed," spoke Fu. This of course surprised the Konoha team at how the Raikage knew an ancient technique like that, although it did make sense. Since both Guy and Lee were able to do the technique in a certain aspect, but still nowhere near like the Raikage was able to do it. Quickly turning around, the enraged Raijuta fired another Tobi Izuna at the Raikage, where it simply passed right through him again, revealing one again that it was not the real the Raikage, but an after image. This continued for several minutes, where Raijuta would fire a Tobi Izuna at the Raikage, but it would just pass through his after image, and he would appear in a different position. As this happened, Raijuta was becoming more and more infuriated at how he kept missing the Raikage, and how the Raikage was humiliating him by making look like a fool. He began to fire rapid amounts of Tobi Izuna at the Raikage, but kept missing until the Raikage appeared at the other end of the street, behind Raijuta, and Raijuta fired 3 Tobi Izuna blades at him. The Raikage was able to sidestep 2 of them, but was slightly too slow, where the last one cut the sleeve of his coat. When Raijuta saw that he had cut the Raikage, he grinned widely. "Did you see that?" said Raijuta, grinning. "My Tobi Izuna was able to cut you and proves that it is the ultimate killing technique. Does it make you happy?" asked the Raikage. "What?" asked a confused Raijuta. "Does this little cut on my coat make you happy?" asked the Raikage. "Even after all the attacks that you threw at me, all of them missed." While that last one just made a small cut on my coat, it didn't even cut my skin. You even claim that your technique is the ultimate killing technique, yet other than this cut on my sleeve, you haven't killed me nor have you hit me even once." At this, Raijuda became even angrier at the Raikage comment. "Damn you and your pathetic excuses," growled Raijuat as he got ready to make another attack. "I've grown tired of this little fight, it time to end this," spoke the Raikage dully as he then reached to his side to take something off the belt of his jeans. At the same moment, Raijuta swung his sword again and cried out, "Tobai Izuna." "This is the end for you, you bastard," cried Raijuta after he unleashed a massive Tobai Izuna which was larger than any of the previous Tobai Izuna. Just as the massive crescent-shape air vacuum blade came towards him, the Raikage quickly took out a blue sword hilt, where a yellow lightning bolt-shaped blade quickly shot out of the hilt. He then quickly raised the sword up to meet the attack. When he raised his sword up, he slashed at the attack, just as it was about to hit him and cut the attack in two, where the remains of the vacuum air passed harmlessly by him. "What?" cried Raijuta as he could not believe that his strongest and fastest attack had been cut in two and was defeated so easily. He was not alone, since many of the Konohanins were equally surprised at how the Raikage defeated Raijuta's attack. But what really shocked them the most was that they knew the sword that the Raikage had in his hand. The sword he had was the Nidaime Hokage's sword, the Raijin no Ken, the sword of the Thunder God, which had been stolen by a former Konoha ninja, Aoi Rokusho, who turned traitor and joined Amegakure, the village hidden in the rain. The Raijin, where on earth did the Raikage find it? The last sighting of it was with Aoi, when he fought against Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura. During the Todoroki Shrine Raisen Cha no Kuni Tea Country, 10 years ago, and both he and the Raijin were lost when they fell off a cliff, it was thought to be lost. But the blade is different from what it was supposed to be, since it now shaped like a lightning blot, thought Kakashi as he was completely stunned. The Raijin. "Impossible, that sword was lost years ago," cried Raijuta in disbelief. "Well, clearly it no longer is, since as you can see I have it, and I can use it ways that the Konoha's Nidaime Hokage could only dream about," spoke the Raikage. "But still it is time to end this fight," said the Raikage as he then deactivated the Raijin and placing it back on his belt. "And I will do it without using the Raijin, since I do not need it to defeat the likes of you." "We see about that," shouted Raijuta as he charged forward at the Raikage with his sword. As Raijuta charged forward, the Raikage then did a few one-handed hand seals and brought his hand up with the palm of his hand forward and then cried out, "Kase no Itami, wind of pain." After which a massive vortex of wind came from his hand and headed right for Raijuta, who could no dodge in time, and was hit full force by the attack and was slashed all over his body by the wind blades of the attack. He was then sent flying into the air and out of the village. After defeating Raijuta, the Raikage turned over to his teams as well as the Konoha team and wave defenders who had all recovered from the effects of the poison. The Raikage then walked over and faced the Konoha group, while Killer Bee and the girls as well as the other storm nins went and stood behind him, after which the Raikage then spoke. "It seems that it becoming a habit of lately that my shinobis and I are coming to save Konoha ninjas, considering the events of the past month," spoke the Raikage. "And if I may, I am guessing that the reason as to why you are here helping to defend Nami no Kuni is to prevent Kiri from using Nami no Kuni as a staging point to open a new front against Konoha from your rear, since from what I understand Nami no Kuni cut all ties with your village 10 years ago." "That is correct, Raikage Denka, but not to sound ungrateful for your aid against Raijuta and his men as well as for saving Kurenai and the other, for we are. But why are you and your shinobis here? Nami no Kuni is not an ally or a member of Kumo and the Heavenly Alliance. I am afraid that your questions will have to wait till later, since if you have not forgotten, we are in the middle of a battle, one that Kiri is on the verge of whining if we do not drive them out now," said the Raikage. Which Kakashi agreed since he knew the Raikage was right and that his questions could be answered later, since they had a battle to fight, and with the Raikage and his shinobi on their side, Kakashi knew they might just stand a chance of whining it. At that moment, another storm nin suddenly appeared on his knees next to the Raikage with a blue and black color mask and shaped like a panther. "Raikage-sama." "Yes, what is it, Panther?" asked the Raikage. "Teams 22, 16, and 12 have arrived and ready to engage the Kiri forces." "Good. Have Team 16 engage the Kiri forces on the southern part of the village. Have Team 12 engage the Kiri forces on the eastern part of the village. And have Team 22 engage the Kiri forces on the western part of the village." while we engage the Kiri forces on this part of the village and drive them back. Also have our teams give out the antidote to the other Konoha teams and wave defenders that are affected by the poison, and have our combat medics assist the wounded. Order the Raikage, where Bear quickly saluted and went to give out the Raikage orders to the other teams. Now if you excuse us, we have a country to save, said the Raikage as he and the rest of his group went off to engage the Kiri forces. Not wanting to be outdone, the Konoha group and the wave samurai and militia members followed after the Raikage and his group to do their part. The southern part of the village. In the southern part of the village, the defense line was on the verge of collapse. Most of the wave defenders were dead, wounded, or unable to move due to the poison. Kiba and Akamaru were on the ground as their bodies could not move due to the poison, and the wounds that they had suffered from trying to fight on after they were affected by the poison. Mogi and Udon were on the ground next to them and were struggled to try and get up but could not. The only ones that seemed to be still able to fight were Guy, Lee, and Konohamaru, who were desperately trying to fight off the large numbers of oncoming Kiri nins and defend their comrades. But unfortunately, in their weakened condition, and against the ever-growing numbers of oncoming Kiri ninjas, they were losing grounds quickly. Just when they were about to be overwhelmed, an unknown voice suddenly shouted out, "Futon. Mugen Sajin Daitapa, wind style, infinite sand cloud great breakthrough." After which a massive blast of wind and sand hit the advancing Kiri shinobis, blinding many from the sand and blowing away others into stone house walls, knocking them out. After the wind and sand blast dissipated, another voice shouted out, "Cotton, Kautetsu no Toge, steel style, steel spikes," and dozens of small metal spikes appeared out of the ground and impaled most of the Kiri nins that were blinded by the wind and sand attack. And before the few remaining Kiri nins that were still alive or conscious could do anything, they were pounced on by a large lion and were ripped to shreds by it. When it was done, the lion quickly morphed into a man wearing Anbu-like armor and clothing, as well as a blue and black mask shaped like a lion. He was then joined by 3 more Anbu with similar outfits and masks, although their shapes were different, where one was in the shape of a chimera, another was shaped like a fox, and the third was shaped like a raccoon. "Who are you?" asked Guy, who although knew they were Anbu judging by their uniform, but was unfamiliar with the mask design. Before any of them could answer Guy's question, Lee suddenly spoke up and answered for them. "They are from Kumo, and they are members of the Youthful Storm Division of Kumo, the same youthful group that saved Sakura-chan, Choji-san, Kurenai-san, and I from the hold." This of course surprised Guy, Konohamaru, and the others. "Kumo, but why are you doing here? Nami no Kuni isn't a member or an ally of the Heavenly Alliance," spoke Konohamaru. "We are here simply to help, and because the Raikage wishes to help this country and has come here personally to help its people, and we of Storm go wherever our Kage goes, and that is all you need to know for now," replied Chimera. "The Raikage is here himself?" asked Guy in disbelief that a Kage would leave his village to defend this country that has no ties to his village. To which Chimera just nodded, and that it was true. "Here, takes these, you will need them," spoke Raccoon as she threw Guy a pill bottle, who caught it, after which she then went over and started to heal a wounded wave samurai. "What is it?" asked Guy. "It is the antidote to the poison that the Kiri nins used. The poison was given to them by Kusagakure. Our spies there were able to get a sample of it as well as a few others and created antidote for it. It should work it in a few minutes after taking it," replied Fox, which of course surprised the Konoha ninja at how prepared the Kumo ninjas were. "How do we know it not some other kind of poison that will kill us or knock us out if we take it?" spoke Kiba, as he wasn't exactly sure that they could trust them. "Don't not say such unyouthful things, Kiba-kun. The ninjas of Storm are honorable and youthful shinobis. Besides, if they wished to kill us, they could have already done so, since they are highly skilled and powerful shinobis and would not need such tricks special in our weakened condition," answered Lee. After which he then took a pill from the bottle and swallowed it. "Thank you, Lee-san. We have also heard much about your skill and power from our Commander Falcon from the raid on the hold. He holds you in high regard, as does Captain Hawk," said Chimera. "What was that jutsu that you guess used that caused those metal spikes to come out of the ground? I've never seen anything like that," asked Konohamaru after he swallowed the pill he was given. "The jutsu was a jutsu that I can use thanks to my clan bloodline," answered Fox. "But that impossible. The only bloodline that could use jutsus involving metal was the Tatara clan, thanks to their cotton, steel release bloodline. And they disappeared right before the founding of the great shinobi villages. They were thought to be extinct long ago," said Guy in disbelief. "That was something we wanted the world to believe, since we went into hiding in the mountain ranges of Kaminari no Kuni, Lightning Country. and lived there until we were discovered when the Civil War started and we joined the rebel factions. Now we are proud members of Kumogakure, replied Fox, shocking the Konoha team. And that jutsu you used, it was like what Garakun can use, when he uses sand manipulating jutsu, spoke Lei. That was correct, I can use Sabuton, sand release, much like the Godaime Kazekage and all other previous Ichibi no Shukaku, one-tailed Shukaku host. Although I cannot use it on their level since my clan were the original guardians of the Ichibi no Shukaku spirit, until we were wrongfully accused of treason by the Yandaime Kazekage and were forced to flee where we eventually joined Kumo. I can do Sabuton thanks to special hidden jutsu that my clan created based on the abilities of the Ichibi no Shukaku, one-tailed Shukaku hosts, replied Chimera. And that changing into a lion trick, since it was like no henge I ever seen, said Kiba, who was now starting to regain his control and feeling into his body thanks to the antidote that they were given by the Storm Nins. No, it wasn't, I simply transformed into one, since I am from the Shihoin clan, answered Lion. This got a confused look from the younger Konoha members, but an understanding look from the guy. Yes, I see, that makes sense now, replied Guy. Sensei, asked Lee. There are stories that I have heard, where in Kumo there lives a clan called the Shihoin clan that has the bloodline that allows them to literally transform into a certain type of animal that matches their personality. I heard of them, but I have never met one until now. They are even said to be one of the 3 great founding clans of Kumo, much like how the Uchihas and the Senju clans were Konoha's great founding clans, answered Guy. This of course surprised Kiba and the others at such a clan existing. You are well informed, Gai-san, but I believe that we no longer have any more time for talking, spoke Fox as he pointed out to the large number of Kirinins coming towards them. Yes, of course we cannot let these unyouthful shinobi damper our flames of you, cried Guy. Hi, and before this battle over I shall defeat 50 more Kiri ninja, and if I cannot do that I shall swim to Mizu no Kuni and back with just one hand, cried Lee. Yash, the flames of youth burn brightly in you, my beautiful student, and I shall help you achieve your goal. Where if you should fail, I shall run around Konoha 1,000 times with just my hands, cried Guy, after which he and Lee charged forward crying out youth. At this the Storm Nins just had large sweat drops at the back of their heads. Man, they're just as crazy and weird as I heard, but still he can't help but kind of like them, thought Fox with a slight smile behind his mask, where he and the other Storm Nins ran forward to help Guy and Lee. They were then soon followed by Konohamaru and the others, as well as the Wave defenders who had recovered from the poison and now wanted in on the action and drive Kiri out of their country. Western part of the village. On the eastern part of the village, Yamato was wounded and leaning against a wall with Shino, who was unable to move, since he had gotten a heavy dose of the poison and his Kikeichu were busy trying to get rid of the poison, but this still left him numb and unable to move. Sai was struggling to hold off a Kiri Jonin that he was fighting against with his 2 Tontos. Tiger, Wolf and Bird were also busy fighting off several Kiri Nins with a few remaining samurai who were still able to fight, and were trying to protect Tazuna and the other men, who were down due to either the poison or the wounds they got from fighting. As Sai was blocking several strikes from a Jonin swordsman, the swordsman was able to knock one of his Tontos from his hands, after which he then threw a pepper bomb into his eyes, temporarily blinding him for a few seconds, giving the Jonin the opening he needed, where he knocked Sai to the ground. When Sai started seeing again, he quickly saw the Kiri Jonin stand over with his sword ready to stab him. But just when the swordsman was about to kill him, Sai suddenly heard a female voice cry out Tentia, celestial arrow, and an arrow made out of chakra pierced the Jonin in the chest from the back, killing him. At the same time, several Kiri Nins who were about to fire their kunai launchers on Tiger, Wolf and Bird, who had just fought off their opponents from a nearby rooftop, suddenly found themselves surrounded by hundreds of flowers that seemed to grow from the roof floor and around them, after which a male voice cried out Kubaton, Chica, plant style. Scattered flowers, where thousands of flower petals started swirl around them with great speed and created a spiral sphere that surrounded them on all sides. When the Kiri Nins tired to get out the flower's petal, cut them like small tiny blades, after which the sphere started to collapse on itself, where it got smaller and smaller until the Kiri Nins had no room left and cut to pieces, where their screams of horror and pain were heard by all around them. When the attack ended, all that remained of the Kiri Nins was the shredded clothing, pools of blood, and small tiny chunks of meat. When Sai and the others looked up, they saw 2 Storm Nins standing on the rooftops, where one who was clearly female by the shape of her body and was wearing a snake ambu mask was holding a bow, an arrow made out chakra in her hand. The other next to her, who wore a frog-shaped ambu mask, had his hands stretched out and had the remaining flowers fall back into the ground. "Who the hell are those guys?" asked Tiger. "I believe that they're storm nins from Kumo, the same group that saved my sensei Kurenai and the rest of her team from the hold," answered Shino, who was just as surprised as the others but was able to hide it better than the others. "What is Kumo doing here? This fight doesn't concern them," spoke Bird. "Better yet, what kind of jutsu did that guy use? Was it Mokyuten would release?" asked Wolf. "No, it wasn't Mokyuten," spoke Yamato as he held his bleeding side. "I have heard legends about a clan existing in Kumo that had a special bloodline called Kubaten, plant release, which is similar in some aspects to Mokyuten. The clan is called the Kuchiki clan, and only a few members of the clan possess the bloodline. It even said that the Kuchiki clan are one of the 5 founding clans of Kumo, much like how the Uchiha and Senju clans are Konohas." "But what about the other one with the bow and arrow made out of chakra?" asked Sai. "I don't know, I never heard of a bloodline or a clan technique like that before," replied Yamato, since he was just as curious as the others were about the female storm nin technique. "That is no concern to any of you about my techniques, Yamato-san. But you are correct about my partner bloodline and him being a member of the Kuchiki clan, and it being similar to your Mokyuten power," replied Snake when she and her partner appeared in front of the Konoha team, and at the same time surprising Yamato about how she knew his name. "Why is Kumagakure here this battle, since it does not involve you or your alliance, and how is it that you know Yamato-san's name?" asked Shino. "We are here because the Raikage has ordered us to, and because we of Storm always follow Arcage's orders and follow him wherever he goes, and as for how we know who Yamato-san's name is a trade secret," replied Frog. "You mean the Raikage is here?" asked a surprised Wolf, where the 2 storm nins just nodded. After which 2 more male storm nins arrived, one wearing a monkey mask and the other wearing a dog mask. "Dog, have you and Monkey handed out the antidote to those affected in the center part of the village?" asked Snake. "Yes, we have," replied Dog. "You have an antidote to this poison?" asked Tazuna, who had now joined the conversation. "Yes, we have, and here some for all of you. It should take effect within minutes of taking it," spoke Dog, handing out the antidote. "Also, I sent out my hawk to give an early view of the situation, and from the looks of things there is about 30 Kiri nins coming this way and will be on use in a few minutes, so we should be ready for them," said Monkey. Before the Konoha group and Wave defenders could ask what hawk they got their answer, when a large hawk suddenly swooped down on them and landed on Monkey back, where it seemed merged with his back. "What the hell was that?" asked Bird in complete surprise and shock, but before Monkey could reply, Sai answered for him. "You're from the Ning clan." "The Ning clan?" asked a confused Tazuna, who was just as surprised as the others were. "They are clan of shinobis that used to live in Kirigakure, but fled it just when the Bloodline Crusades began in it. From what I have heard, they fled it because they feared that their clan's hidden jutsus, secret techniques, would be mistaken as bloodlines and be wiped out like some of the other bloodline clans there. Their technique works on a similar manner as my Sumi jutsu's ink techniques, but unlike mine, they use tattoos of animals that they paint on their bodies and summons them off their skin to fight. They even can control what the animals do and can see what they can see even in great distances. Also, the animals will return to them when they call them back, or if they are destroyed instead of just being destroyed," answered Sai, since he had heard of the clan and he had based his Sumi jutsu on the clan techniques. "Now that we have introduced ourselves, I believe we should get ready for the 30 Kiri shinobi that are heading this way," said Snake. "Snake is correct. Dog, you help heal the wounded while we engage the Kiri forces," spoke Frog, after which he turned to Yamato and Tazuna. "Once you all have gotten over the poison, we will need you to help us. Tazuna-san, we will need you samurai to help us fight the Kiri shinobis, while you and your volunteers help Snake give us long-range support. Yamato-san, we will need you and your people to help us and the Wave samurai battle against the Kiri shinobis once you are ready." Both men nodded in agreement, where the Storm Nins hide in some of the empty builds and ambush the Kiri Nins when they pass through them. After which the Konoha Nins and the Wave defenders quickly joined the Storm Nins in the fight, and together they started to push the Kiri forces back. Eastern part of the village. At the eastern part of the village, Shikiamaru was currently trying to think of a situation that could help them. Both Ino and himself were in no real condition to fight thanks to inhaling a large amount of poison. Choji and Inari were desperately trying to hold back several attacking Kiri Nins in their weakened and wounded conditions, along with a few Wave samurai who were in just as bad if not worse condition as they were in. Badger was dead, where a Kiri Nin was able to sneak up behind him and stab him in the back of his head. While Bor was on the ground bleeding from some wounds he had received from fighting a Kirin, and the remaining wave defenders were in a similar state, whether they were wounded or affected by the poison. After seeing this and fully analyzing the situation, Shikamaru knew there were only two possible outcomes, both which resulted in Kiri whining and taking Nami no Kuni. The first options would be them being all slaughtered or taken as prisoners by Kiri, while the other would be them trying to break out of the village, where many of them may die from the attempt due to their weakened condition, and retreat back across the Great Naruto Bridge and back to Konoha lines, while leaving Inari and his men in the village to be slaughtered by the Kiri shinobis, since they would be unable to keep up with the Konoha shinobis and would just slow them down. Just when Shikamaru thought they were all finished, he and the others suddenly heard a female voice cry out, "Kuchios no Jutsu, Ukamita summoning technique, wolf pack." The next thing he saw were a dozen of black, white, and gray wolves coming out nowhere and attacking the unsuspecting Kirinins and ripping the two apart. As this was happening, two Kirinins suddenly appeared right behind Choji and Inari, who were too busy watching what is happening to notice them. Before Shikamaru could yell out and warn them, another shinobi wearing Anbu armor and a blue and black mask shaped like a cat suddenly appeared right out of a wall. That was behind the two Kirinins like he was some kind of ghost, and stabbed the two Kirinins in the back of the head without either of them know whatever happened. When Shikamaru saw the mask and the outfit, he quickly realized that the one that had saved Choji and Inari was a storm ninja from Kumo, since the outfit and the mask matched the description of the ones that Choji told him about. He then saw another one appeared and started to fight the remaining four Kirinins hand to hand, where she ducked a stabbing strike from a Kirinin. The female ninja then punched the Kiri right in the stomach, and with such force that it caused the Kirinin to collapse on the ground unconscious for the pain of the punch. After which the female storm nin quickly did a backwards flip over a Kiri swordsman to avoid a slashing strike from the Kiri swordswoman that tried to slash her from behind. As the female storm nin was in midair, she kicked the swordswoman on the back of her head and sent her flying into a nearly wall head first, showing that the female storm nin was very, very strong. She then quickly blocked another kunai with her own kunai that she took out and pushed the Kirinin back, after which she bended backwards to avoid another kunai that sent at her from a Kirinin who fired it with his kunai launcher. Reacting quickly, the female storm nin straightened herself up and threw several shurikens at the Kirinin. She then quickly sidestepped the Kiri she fought earlier and had tried to attack her again, where she knocked his feet away with a kick, making him fall backwards, and before he hit the ground, she kicked him in the back up to the air, before jumping up to him herself and then shouting out "Tendu, heaven's kick," and doing a falling axe kick, sending the Kirinin flying down into the ground before he could do anything to block it, and creating a large crater in the street with him in it. But as the female storm nin was in mid-air, she was then hit several kunais in the chest and stomach by the Kirinin with the kunai launcher. But as soon as the kunai hit her, she turned into a broken slab of stone with several kunai in revealing that the female storm nin used a Kawarami no Jutsu body replacement technique. When the Kirinin saw this, he tired to move away to another position, but as he turned around he saw the female storm nin standing right behind him and punching him right in the face, where he was sent fly right through the wall of a building that was opposite him, once again showing that the female storm nin was quite strong. After the Kirinins were defended, another storm nin arrived and quickly went over to the wounded wave defenders and began to heal them, while at the same time giving the Konoha nins, as well as the others who were just affected by the poison, the antidote to it. Soon enough, the Konoha teams, along with the remaining wave defenders who weren't too badly wounded, had fully recovered from the poison. It was then that they got a better look at their saviors. The one that saved Choji and Inari wore a standard Anbu outfit with blue and black mask like all the others, but his was shaped like a cat. The one that gave them the antidote to the poison and was helping healing the wounded wore a bull-shaped mask. The one who fought and defeated the Kirinins wore an eagle-shaped mask, while the one who seemingly summoned the wolves to attack those Kirinins earlier was the one who wore the demon-shaped mask. "Who the hell are you guys?" asked Ino, since although she was happy that they saved them, but like most women she was naturally curious and wanted to know what was going on and who they were. But before any of them could answer, Shikamaru answered for them, "Troublesome, don't you remember the group that saved Choji, Kurenai and the others from the hold, and how Choji described them to us? They're from Kumo and are from the Storm Division, right Choji?" Which Choji nodded to, "Yeah, they're from Storm, but they not the same ones that saved the others and I from the hold." "If you're from Kumo, then what are you doing here? This battle does not concern you," said Bor rather rudely. even despite the fact that the Strom Nins saved him and the others and healed him of his wounds and the poison. We have no obligation to answer you Konoha Nin, so we will not. All we will say is that we Storm Nins go wherever our Kage tells us to go and follow him wherever he goes, replied Eagle. What do you mean by follow your Kage wherever he goes? Asked Ino until she suddenly realized, you can't mean that the Raikage here, she cried in disbelief. You are indeed correct, he is indeed here, but before you ask why he is here himself, that is of no concern to you, spoke Cat before any of them could ask. Fine then, but tell us, was that ability you used to pass through the wall like it wasn't even there a bloodline ability, since I'm pretty certain that it wasn't a jutsu since I didn't sense any chakra when you came through the wall, said Shikamaru. If Shikamaru had been able to see through Cat Mask, he would have seen him smirk as she was impressed with the young Nara. It seems that our profile on you was right on the money with you Nara Shikamaru of the Nara clan and Jonin strategic commander of Konoha. Troublesome, you have a file on me, don't you? Of course we would be fools not to. We have files on all of you as well as all your shinobis, since as the great son Tizus in the Art of War said, know your enemy, replied Eagle. But we aren't your enemy, replied Choji, not yet, but maybe later on, and besides we aren't allies either. But for now we are on the same side and we will fight with you against our common enemy. Fine, but you still haven't answered my question. Was that ability where you passed through the wall a bloodline? Asked Shikamaru. Yes, but that impossible, there no bloodline that exists that allows people to pass through things, said Ino in disbelief. You forget Yamanaka-san, in the shinobi world nothing is impossible, and besides, all warfare is based on deception, said Bull. This of course caused Ino to huff in an ounce, since as an interrogator she didn't like being denied what she wanted to know from people. If you guys don't mind, stop playing 20 question my men, and I would really appreciate you helping us fight off the Kiri Nins that are advancing towards us, spoke Inari with a hit of annoyance. As he then pointed to the large number of Kiri Nins coming towards them on the rooftops and the street. Inari-san is correct, we have an enemy to defeat, so I suggest we get to it, spoke Cat, where Shikamaru nodded in agreement. After which the wave defenders, the Konoha Nins and the Storm Nins all lined up into formation and charged forward. With the arrival of the Raikage, his bodyguards and the Storm Nins, the battle began to shift in favor of the defenders, where the Kiri forces were being slowly driven back with heavy losses on 4 sides of the village. Northern part of the village. As the battle raged in the northern part of the village, Sakura was healing a wounded Kakashi, where he had been badly injured by a Kiri Jonin who was able to stab Kakashi with his kunai just before Kakashi rammed his Chidori into the Jonin. As Sakura was healing Kakashi, she could not help notice how the Storm Nins and the Raikage as well as his bodyguards fought their opponents. When they turned slightly to her left, she saw Dragon fighting 3 Kiri Jonins after flipping backwards to avoid a sword slash from a Kiri Jonin. Dragon quickly then went into a horse stance, after which he then released a large amount of chakra, where much to the shock of Sakura and the Kiri Nins, bat-like wings suddenly appeared out of his back and he started to flap them, where he then began to fly. So he is from Yun clan, I didn't any of them became Kumo ninjas anymore, spoke Kakashi with mild surprise. The Yun clan, who are they Kakashi-sensei? I never heard of them, asked Sakura. I'm not surprised you haven't heard of them, they are not your typical shinobi clan. Since unlike most shinobi clans, the Yun clan are the guardian protectors of the Lightning Daimyo family. They have guarded and protected the Sadake royal family since the founding of the village, since the clan swore an oath to protect and serve only Sadake family after the family saved the Yun clan from being wiped out by its enemies. Hence why not many of their members become Kumo ninja, since they normally only serve and protect of the Lightning Daimyo. Not to mention the fact they fight more like samurai than ninja most of the times, replied Kakashi. But how does he have those wings? Asked Sakura, who was still staring at Dragon with surprise. It because of their bloodline, answered Kakashi. Bloodline? Yes, the Yun clan is one of 5 Kaminari no Kuni lightning country, only shinobi clans with bloodlines. Their bloodline is called Ryuten, dragon release. It gives them increased strength, speed and power, as well as to be able to transform into humanoid like dragons, increasing their power exponentially. It's even rumored that they have a summoning contract for dragons as well. It is also said that they are the strongest shinobi clan in Kaminari no Kuni, said Kakashi, which surprised Sakura. As Kakashi and Sakura watched the battle, Dragon quickly did a few hand seals and cried out, hidden. Gonryuga, secret art, ultimate dragon fang blaze. After which Dragon then inhaled a large amount of air, and then exhales a massive long wide stream of super hot fire that took the shape of a dragon with incredible speed from his mouth through the hole in his mask mouth and streamed towards the Kirinins like a flamethrower. The attack came in so fast, and the brightness of the fire attack was so bright that it blinded the ninjas for a second or two and were hit by the attack. When the attack ended, all that remained of the Kiri Jonins was their charred, crispy remains. After dealing with the Kiri Jonin's dragon, then took out a katana that he had on his back and began to attack several Kirinins who were on the rooftops from the air with his katana. As Dragon went to deal with the Kirinins on the rooftops, Sakura and Kakashi then saw Baku fighting with 6 Kiri Chunins after dodging a kunai throw. Baku quickly rolled up his sleeve to reveal a summoning seal on his arm, and after biting his thumb, he spread some blood on it to summon large Kusarigama-like weapons, each with 2 sickle blades. The blades were connected to a spiked rod tethered together by a long chain. After summoning the weapons, he used them to block several attacks from the attacking Kirinins. After blocking a sword strike with one of the blades, he brought the other to the side of the Kirinin, who could not avoided the attack and was cut in two with his upper half cut from his lower half. Baku was able to do this by channeling his wind chakra to the blades of weapons to enhance the cutting power of them. As soon as he killed one of the Kirinins, Baku quickly swirled around to block several kunais that were fired at him from behind and by a Kirinin with a kunai launcher. After blocking the kunais, he quickly threw one of his weapons at the Kirinin. As he threw it, the bladed portion of the weapon began to spin like a fan. The Kirinin quickly sidestepped the attack and was about to take aim and fire again when something happened that he did not expect to happen. Baku pulled on the chain and cased it to come back. Since unknown to the Kirinin, Baku was able to control the Kusarigama-like weapons from a range by using the chain and was extremely proficient in wielding them, both when he throws them and when in his hands. When the weapons came back, the unsuspecting Kirinin was cut in two just like the earlier Kirinin. After regaining his other weapon, Baku quickly began to defend himself from the remaining 4 Kirinin's attacks, and despite being outnumbered, he was able to hold his ground well. After a few minutes, Baku was able to get the Kirinins at a distance by throwing his weapons around and using the chains to move them at unpredictable paths so that they would have to keep dodging his attacks. When he regained both his weapons again, he quickly channeled his wind chakra to the blades and swung them down and yelled out, "Keishini, wind death." After which, a massive gust of wind was shot at the Kirinins, and dozens of large crescent-shaped wind blades were fired along with it, where the wind blades cut the 4 Kirinins to pieces. When the Kirinins were dealt with, Baku then went over to Tenten and Neji were fighting against some Kirinins. After that, Sakura continued to finish healing Kakashi. As she also saw Leopard to her left on her knees, busy healing a wounded wave militia who was on the ground. It was then that Sakura and Kakashi saw a large, bulky build Kirinin who looked to be very muscular and was about 6 foot high coming up behind her. Sakura and Kakashi were both about to shout and warn Leopard, who seemed to be too busy healing the wounded militiaman to notice the Kirinin behind her. But before either of them could, Leopard suddenly twirled around as she was crouched down and quickly slashed at the back of the Kirinin leg and used her Chakura no Mesu chakra scalpel to sever the nerves at the back joint of his right leg, causing him to fall forward and onto his knees. As the Kirinin tired to get up, he just fell down onto the ground. After falling to the ground, the Kirinin used his other still good leg to push himself forward and tired to attack Leopard. But Leopard just sidestepped him and the Kirinin just fell forward, where Leopard then quickly grabbed the Kirinin good leg and twisted it around, and pulling it backwards, breaking it in a dozen different places, causing the Kirinin to scream in pain. Leopard then let go of the Kirinin leg, and she then flipped herself backwards, where she landed both her knees bones on the Kirinin upper back hard, and breaking it in several places. When that happened, the Kirinin scream out in agony. When Leopard went to move away and go back to the wounded militiaman, the Kirinin somehow grabbed onto the back of Leopard's left leg and tired stop her and pull her back to him. But Leopard quickly just moved her leg back so that the Kirinin hand was between both her legs, and then, in one quickly hard motion, twisted her legs so that she would snap the Kirinin's wrist, once again causing the man agonizing pain and walking away. During the fight, Kakashi and Sakura were so focused watching Leopard deal with the large Kirinin that they failed to notice another Kirinin sneaking up behind them. Just as the Kirinin was about to swing his sword down and cut both their heads off with it, another voice shouted out, "Sururai Thunder Slash," and crescent-shaped flying blade of energy came out of nowhere and cut the Kirinin head off. When Kakashi and Sakura turned around, they saw the head of the Kiri-nin fall to the ground and his headless body falling to the ground after it. When they looked around to whom had saved them, they saw the Raikage standing nearby hold the Raijin. First rule of being a shinobi: always watch your surroundings, or else next time you won't be saved by me, said the Raikage before disappearing in a flash. After that, Sakura quickly healed Kakashi, and then the both of them went to help in the battle. As the battles continued, the Kiri-nins were being pushed back further and further. During the battle, Panther faced against two Kiri-nins on a rude top, where they each quickly did hand seals and each cried out, Suiton. Yano Kuche water style, snake's mouth, cried the first Kiri-nin, and calling on the water from a nearby well to form a giant snake mouth. Suiton, Mizurappa water style. Violent water wave, cried the second Kiri-nin, and gushed out a large amount of water from the mouth like a waterfall towards Panther. Quickly doing a few seals, Panther quickly cried out, Raiten Reijiki no Yours, lightning style. Lightning strike armor, and covered himself in lightning like an armor. The two separate attacks both reached him at the same time. When the two attacks hit him, they pushed him back and tore up the tiles on the rooftop, but fortunately, Panther was able to withstand the two attacks and keep himself standing up. When the attacks ended, Panther armor left deactivated, since it were only good for one hit, which was why it was lucky that the two attacks hit at the same time. After the Reijiki no Yori deactivated, Panther quickly did another set of seals and cried out, Ranton. Rizadoragon storm release, laser dragon. After which a massive dragon made out of bright electric beam of energy erupted from his hands and with frightening speed vaporized both Kir-nins and causing a massive explosion and blew the house apart. Also during the fight, Killer Bee found himself surrounded by 8 Kiri-nins. He only one man kill him, shouted a Kiri-nin as they charged him. You suckers don't know who you're messing with, said Killer Bee with a smirk, after which he took out all 7 of his sword on his back and holds the 7 blades in between the joints of his arms, left armpit, both elbows, right leg, stomach, the right side of his neck, and in his mouth. He then started to spin around like a buzz saw and overwhelmed his opponents with all of the varying swings he did. The moves were so fast that none of the Kiri swordsmen could move or block any of his attacks. As Killer Bee was doing this, he shouted out, I float, like a butterfly, and sting like a bee, cause I'm the 8-tailed beast, as he killed the last Kiri-nin. As Killer Bee was handling the Kiri-nins, he was unknowingly being watched by Sasuke, who had just killed several Kiri-nins himself with his katana. When he saw Killer Bee fight, he tried to follow his moves with his Sharingan, but could not read his moves since they were too quick and simultaneous for him to read, even with his Sharingan. This of course greatly annoyed Sasuke at how he could not read Killer Bee moves. He then turned to his left where he saw Yujito facing off against 5 Kiri-nins. She quickly did some hand seals and then cried out, Cotton. Heiniko fire style, ash cat. After which she blew out a massive amount of ash out of her mouth that quickly went forward and took the shape of a cat with a cloud of ash behind it. The Kiri-nins tried to avoid it, but they could not since the attack was too big to avoid and were enveloped by it. When they were enveloped, the ash cut and burned all over their bodies. When the ash dissipated, all that was left of Kiri-nins were just their charred and burned remains. Sasuke had tried to copy the technique, believing that it might be of some use to him, but much to his confusion, his Sharingan could not copy the jutsu. He then looked forward and saw Fu fighting against 4 Kiri-nins who tried to hit her with some water jutsus, which she was able to block with her earth jutsus. She then did a few more hand seals and cried out, Daten, Yomi Numa, earth style, swamp of the underworld, where a large mud hole was made right under the Kiri-nins' feet, and like quicksand, the Kiri-nins were quickly enveloped by the mud. And much like before when Sasuke tried to copy her jutsu, but just like with Yujito, his Sharingan could not copy her jutsu. Even though he could see it, his Sharingan just simply would not copy them. This of course infuriated Sasuke, since his Sharingan should be able to copy practically any jutsu that he sees. But before he could think any more on why his Sharingan could not copy any of their jutsus, he was attacked by several Kiri-nins. As he fought them, he was then joined by Kakashi, who was now healed thanks to Sakura, and went over to help Sasuke fight the Kiri-nins. After they had killed the Kiri-nins, they both turned around to see the Raikage, who was battling a group of 20 Kiri-jonins who believed that they could overwhelm the Raikage by sheer numbers. As the Kiri-nins attacked the Raikage, they tried to hit him with their kunais, kunai launchers, swords, and jutsus, but each time the Raikage would dodge or their attacks in the similar manner that he did with Raijuta. After a minute or so of doing this, the Raikage went on the offensive and threw several lightning-empowered shurikens that suddenly appeared in his hands, where he extended the reach of his shurikens as well as the increased sharpness of them by channeling his lightning chakra through them, which made them look like large Fuma shurikens once they were thrown. The Kirinins quickly dodged the shurikens, but thanks to the increased sharpness and extended reach from lightning chakra that the Raikage channeled into them, many of the Kirinins were cut badly from them. But what the Kirinins did not know was that the shurikens were just a distraction, whereas the Kirinins were busy dodging the shurikens, the Raikage was busy doing hand seals. When he was finished, the Raikage cried out, "Raiten!" Suzukiri lightning style, cutting sparrow. After which over 20 lightning birds appeared around the Raikage screeching loudly and started to flying all around the disorganized Kiri group and started to hack at them to pieces as they flew by them or through them. Many of the Kiri group hand tried to dodge or block them, but the birds simply just cut through their swords when they tired to block with them. Even when the Kirinins dodged them or replaced themselves with a clone or an object, the birds would just follow them and slice through the Jonins. Some had even tired to attack the Raikage and kill him. The Raikage would bring the birds back to defend him and block any attack the Kirinins made, and then kill them. Within a minute or two, all the Kiri Jonins surrounding the Raikage were killed, with the body's pieces scattered around him. Both Sasuke and Kakashi had watched the entire fight, and when they first saw the Raikage doing hand seals, they both activated or revealed their Sharingans in hopes of copying whatever jutsu the Raikage was going to use. But much to Kakashi's surprise and to Sasuke's growing infuriation, their Sharingans could not copy the Raikage jutsu. They then watched the Raikage use the Suzukiri jutsu to wipe out the Kiri group. Both had been surprised by how powerful the jutsu was and how the Raikage used it to kill 20 highly skilled Jonins and made it look like child's play. It made Kakashi even more curious since he had never heard of a powerful jutsu like that or any jutsu that was used in the way the Raikage used it. That of course left two possibilities, one which was the most likely where the Raikage created it himself, but would not explain why other ninjas knew it. Since from Kurenai's report, from when she and the others were rescued from the hold, 2 other storm nins knew it, and he found it highly unlikely that a Kage would share such a powerful jutsu as that to his subordinates in case someone would use it against them. The other and less likely of possibilities, but still possible, being that Kumo has some unknown source that has powerful and unheard of jutsu. As they watched the Raikage, a voice suddenly spoke up behind them. "You will be unable to copy any of the Raikage jutsus or any of our own Hatake-san, Uchiha-san." When Kakashi and Sasuke quickly turned around, since they had been surprised that anyone had been able to sneak up on them with noticing them, since their shinobi senses were on full alert, and yet they did not sense anyone come near them. When they turned around, they saw a young attractive woman in her early 20s. Kakashi quickly recognized her as Okatsu from the description Kurenai, and the other gave of her in their report after being held in the hold. "And may I ask how that is possible, or how you know that we cannot copy anything from your group?" asked Kakashi in his cheesy eye smile, as if it was a normal conversation with a friend. At this, Okatsu smirked. "This is the reason why your Sharingan cannot copy or jutsus or any of our moves," spoke Okatsu as she removed her fingerless teku to reveal a seal on the back of her hand. "What is it?" asked Kakashi, who was now even more curious. "It is a special seal that the Raikage developed which emanates a special chakra-pulsed field around the person who has it on them, where it negates the special abilities or effects of dojutsus on people. Hence it negates the copying ability and tracking ability of the Sharingan, where you cannot follow our high speeds or copy our jutsus and moves, and you cannot put us under a genjutsu with your eyes. The same can be said for the Hyuga clan's Byakugan, where they cannot see through our bodies and cannot see our chakra circulation system in our bodies. Hence they cannot use their Juken, gentle fist, on us when they cannot see our chakra pathway system to begin with." "Impossible," said Kakashi in complete disbelief at how such a seal existed at all. "There's no possible way that a seal like that exists. You have seen the effects already. Hatake-san, Konoha's famed dojutsu, the Sharingan and Byakugan are worthless against us. Since every shinobi in Kumo from the lowest genin to the Raikage himself has this seal on them, and the same with our allied shinobi villages," said Okatsu with an ever-growing smirk on her lips, after which she then left to join the fight, where she left and completely stunned Kakashi and an infuriated Sasuke, who was enraged beyond words at how Kumo, or more specifically, the Raikage had just insulated his clan by taking away their bloodline's greatest abilities. When Kakashi got over his shock, he could only sigh before he left to help in the fighting. If we survive this battle and get back to Konoha, they're going to be one hell of a shitstorm when the Hokage and the council hears this, thought Kakashi as imagined their reaction. After the Raikage had dealt with the Kiri Jonins, Dragon quickly flew down next to him. Raikage-sama, I have just finished looking over the village, and it seems that our forces are driving back the Kiri forces. But they are putting up stiff resistance and our advance is slow. If we do not finish this quickly, they will be able to call in their reinforcements and would overwhelm us, spoke Dragon. For a moment the Raikage said nothing, but then quickly looked up at Dragon and spoke. Have the Konohanins, the wave defenders and our own people halt their advance and have them hold their ground. I will handle the remainder of the Kiri forces myself. Quickly realizing what the Raikage meant, Dragon nodded and made contact on his radio in his mask with the other Storm Nins, and told them of the Raikage orders, and then informed the wave defenders and the Konohanins. Once the word was spread to the other forces, the Raikage prepared his next jutsu. It's time to end this battle, once and for all, thought the Raikage, where lightning seemed to surround the bottoms of his feet, after which he disappeared in a bright blue flash. As the Kono-nins and the Storm Nin and the Wave Defender held their ground against the attack Kiri-nins, a bright flash of blue light suddenly flew right past them, where as soon as it left, several of the Kiri-nins suddenly started to scream out in pain and fall dead, as blood started to erupt out of the bodies, as if they had been slashed by a sword. The next second the blue flash came back, and going from one Kiri-nin to the next, and killing them all in an instant before they could do anything. All over the village, the bright flash of blue light started to appear, and as it did, Kiri shinobis were falling like flies. None of the Konohanins and the Wave Defenders could understand what was happening, nor could their trained eyes keep up with the movements of the blue flash, since as soon as they saw it disappeared with a blink of an eye. All Konohanins and the Wave Defenders could do was watch in complete awe as this bright blue flash of light slaughtered their enemies right in front of them. The Kiri-nins themselves were in complete pandemonium the moment the blue flash of light appeared, as they did not know what to do, since as soon as they saw the blue flash, either they or their comrade would be dead before any of them could do anything. It was as if it was there on second and gone the next. Within minutes, the numerical superiority of the Kiri-nins was quickly dwindling down to nothing as Kiri-nins started to fall left and right to the blue flash, as the blue flash appeared right in the middle of the Kiri shinobi ranks and seemed to appear in several places at once, as Kiri-nins fell almost exactly at the same time. Many of the Kiri-nins tried to hit the blue flash of light with their weapons or their jutsus, but not of them could hit it, as it was too fast for any of them to aim, let alone fire anything. Some even tried to run away or dodge it, but they were all too slow, as they were killed within instant of trying. As the Konoha ninja watched, many of them could only wonder what the blue flash of light was. "What is it?" asked Kakashi out loud as he tried to follow the blue flash with his Sharingan, but found that it was too fast even for his Sharingan to keep up with and follow, where all he could see was a flash of bright blue light like everyone else. It's like trying to follow Sensei when he used the Hurricane no Jutsu, the Flying Thunder God technique, he thought. His question was then answered by Yujito, who was standing next to him and heard him. "It is the Raikage," she said simply, completely shocking Kakashi and the rest of the Konoha group. "The Raikage be, but how?" asked Sakura, since although she knew he was powerful, she could not believe that he was this powerful, where he could move as fast as the Yondaime Hokage. "By use of a special technique he created called Reipo lightning steps," answered Yujito. "Reipo," said Tenten. "Yes, the technique involves the Raikage constantly drawing lightning from the geomagnetic voltage of the earth to the bottom of his feet, and using the repellent force to go from one place to the other in an instant. The technique literally allows the Raikage to skate across the voltage that he has gathered, and uses it to move at monumental speed, where he can move great distances from point A to point B in a single step in the speed of light. He can also do the technique in midair by using the static electricity in the air, and use it to the same degree, and what more, the technique requires little to no chakra at all. It is because of this technique that the Raikage earned the nickname Samurai, Blue Lightning, since when He uses the technique he is fast as lightning and makes a blue flash," replied Yujito. When the Konoha group and the Wave Defenders heard this, they were completely stunned to say the least, especially the Konoha group, since the Raikage had created a technique that was easily on par with the Yondaime Hokage legendary Hurricane no Jutsu. As the Raikage slaughtered the Kiri-nins, some of the few reaming squad captains tired to regain control of their forces and reform them into a tight defensive circle. with all of them facing outwards on all sides, and with all of their backs against each other so that the Raikage could not sneak up on them from behind, so that they would at least see him coming for them when he would attack. Just when they all got into position, several of the men saw a blue flash, at which the second they saw the Raikage standing up on a nearby rooftop above them, and looking down at them while holding the Raijin in his right hand. "If that Raikage shoot him," cried a Kiri captain as several of the other kinnin fired their kunai launchers. But the moment they fired, there was another blue flash, and he was gone, and several more of Kiri nins fell dead. "Where is he?" cried one of the Kiri nins as he looked around for the Raikage. "Looking for me, gentlemen," spoke the Raikage, standing on another rooftop, opposite the one he was on a moment ago. "There." "Shoot him," said a Kiri shinobi, as he and several others fired several water jutsus at him. But as soon as they fired them, the Raikage disappeared in another blue flash, and another several Kiri shinobis fell dead. "Missed again, I'm afraid," said the Raikage mockingly as he stood in the middle of the street in front of the group. "Kill him," cried another Kiri captain as he and the remaining Kiri shinobis rushed forward to attack the Raikage head-on. But as they charged at him, the Raikage could not help but shake his head and then think how foolish they were. Where within a blink of an eye, the Raikage disappeared once again in a blinding bright blue flash, and within a second or two, he reappeared several feet behind the charged group of Kiri nins, where he then deactivated the Raijin, where as soon as he did, all the remaining Kiri nins fell dead before they even knew that they were dead. After the Raikage killed off the last remaining large groups of Kiri nins, the remaining few quickly began a full retreat back to the landing beach to where the 200 reserves were, and planned to make a last stand there. Upon seeing the remaining Kiri nins retreat back to the landing beach, all the remaining wave defenders and all the Konoha teams, along with the Raikage and all his storm teams, perused after them, to drive them back to the sea, back onto their ships, and back to Kiri. For several minutes, the Konoha teams and the Raikage teams lead the charge forward against the retreating Kiri nins, with the wave defenders following behind them. As they perused them, the kill or captured any of the remaining Kiri shinobis that fell behind the others. When they got to the beach, they found the remaining Kiri forces had joined up with their reserve forces and took up a defensive position and were ready to make one last stand. "Kiri shinobis, I will give you this one and only chance, surrender now or you will die here," spoke the Raikage as he believed that enough people had died today. "Kiri shinobis, do not surrender, we will fight to the death," cried a Kiri captain. The Raikage just sighed, knowing that that would be their only answer, since he had heard that if any Kiri shinobis surrendered, the Mizukage would have their family killed or become leaves in his weapons factory, and if they returned home in defeat, he would have the shinobi killed. "Very well, you have made your choice," sighed the Raikage, where he then turned to Fu and the others as well as his storm nins. "Fu, you and the others drop your weapons and anything metal that on you," said the Raikage, and then turned to the Konoha's teams and the wave defenders. "That goes for all of you as well." "What?" cried Kiba. "You heard him do it," ordered Yujito as she quickly dropped her kunais and shurikens on the ground, as well as her gauntlets and body armor, along with storm nins and the Raikage other bodyguards. "Because if you don't, you will all die, so make sure that none of you have any metal on you." Quickly deciding to follow Yujito's advice and following the other Kumo example, all the reaming wave defenders and the Konoha teams quickly dropped their weapons and anything metal that they had on them. When the Kiri nins saw this, they at first thought that the wave defenders and their shinobi allies were surrendering. But that thought quickly evaporated when they saw lightning suddenly starting to surround the Raikage body, once all his people and the Konoha nins and the wave defenders had removed all their metal equipment. Everyone in the surrounding area could literally feel the electricity in the air as their hairs stood up on ends. They could also feel and see the massive amount of chakra that the Raikage was releasing and surrounding him. The Raikage then lifted his hands up with his fingertips forward and then suddenly cried out, "Seikara, static force." Suddenly 10 long streams of lightning bolts erupted from the Raikage fingers' tips and hit 10 separate Kiri nins and started to electrocute them. The lightning bolts then spread to the other nearby Kiri shinobis, and in turn it spread to the other Kiri shinobis. Within seconds, all Kiri shinobis on the beach being electrocuted to death, since the lightning seemed to spread from one person to the next, connecting them in a web on death, where they were being electrocuted. As this happened, all the Konoha nins, wave samurai and the wave militia could down was watch in shock, awe and horror, as nearly 300 shinobis and kunoichis were being electrocuted to death right before their eyes. As they watched this, many of them were slightly thanking the heavens that the Raikage was on their side. After about a minute or so, the Raikage ceased his attack and lowered his hands. When the attack ended, the charred, burnt remains of the Kirinins fell to the ground. After which a foul smell of burnt corpses overpowered the normal salty sea air, where everyone that remained could smell the foul stench. After the attack ended, it took a minute or so for the wave defenders and the Konohas to get over their shock at that they had seen. A massive blast of water suddenly erupted from the sea, after which when the water settled they saw a massive crab creature about 50 feet high standing up in the water. Also on the crab was Raijuda, who by the look was badly cut up where his face had many different cuts that were still bleeding all over his face, which would no doubt leave scars later on. His uniform was also badly torn up and had dried blood on them. "Don't think you have won this battle already, Raikage," roared Raijuda as he looked at the Raikage with pure rage and hatred. "Huh. So he's still alive," said the Raikage, after which he rapo to disappear and reappear in front of Raijuda and his crab summon on water, while everyone else watched from the shore line. "This is foolish, Raijuda. You have already lost this battle. Your army has been destroyed. You cannot win," spoke the Raikage. "I don't care about this wretched country anymore. All I care about now is killing you," roared Raijuda as he then ordered his crab summons to attack. Fool, though the Raikage as he dodged the crab summons claws as it tried to smash him with it. For several minutes the Raikage continued to dodge the crab summons attacks until Raijuda ordered it to fire its Hamatsu Rappa, violent bubble wave, in which a huge wave of bubbles from its mouth. The Raikage was just able to narrowly dodge the attack by jumping up into the air, but as soon as he did, Raijuda then ordered his crab summons to fire its Mizuteppo water pistol at the Raikage, at which the crab summons fired a massive high-speed jet of water at the Raikage from its claws. The jet of water quickly hit the Raikage, but Raijuda quickly realized that the Raikage he hit was an after-image from when the Raikage used his Zanzo Jutsu, since the Raikage then appeared to his left-hand side and charged at him with the Raijin in his hand. The crab summons quickly blocked the Raikage attack with its hard shell claw and was able to push him away. Quickly regaining his footing, the Raikage went of the defensive again by dodging the crab summons water attacks and Raijuda's Tobai Izuna attacks. The Raikage finally grew tired of always being on the defensive and decided to go on the offensive. At the same time, the crab summon fired another Mizuteppo at the Raikage, but instead of dodging, the Raikage charged forward and took the attack head-on and blocked the attack with the Raijin. As the Raikage struggled to hold the water attack off, it slowly pushed him back, and just when then attack was about to overwhelm him, the Raikage suddenly disappeared, letting the attack go by, and then reappeared right above Raijuda and his crab summons. "What?" cried Raijuda in disbelief as he suddenly saw the Raikage appear above him. "Your time is done, sir, or I thunder slash," cried the Raikage, and then fired a slashing crescent-shaped blade of lighting energy down at Raijuda and his crab summons, and cut both of them in half and then caused a large explosion and scattered their remains into the sea. From the shoreline, the wave defenders and the Konohanins could only watch in disbelief, as the Raikage took on both Raijuda and his crab summon of such size by himself, without summoning something of equal size, and then kill them both with a single slash from his sword. But just as they got over their shock, they all suddenly heard hundreds of small blasts coming from the nearby Kiri warships, which were a good distance away from the shoreline. When they looked up, they quickly saw thousands of exploding kunais in the air heading towards them. Reacting quickly, the Raikage deactivated the Raijin and put back on his belt, where he did a combination of 51-handed hand seals and normal 2-handed hand seals, after which when he finished he cried out Tenpu Midorite, Heavenly Wind Rage, X. After which a massive explosion of wind came from the Raikage, and caused exploding kunais to collide with each other, and explode or fall into the water and explode. Once the kunai were all destroyed, the Raikage then turned to look at the 20 Kiri warships, after which he then sped off towards the Kiri warships in amazing speed that caused the water to tear up around him as he headed towards the warships. When the crews of the warships saw the Raikage heading towards them, they quickly reloaded the volley guns and repositioned them to fire directly at the Raikage, in which they fired them all at him. As the Raikage ran forward, he saw the massive wave exploding kunais heading towards him. But he continued head-on and dodged any of the kunais that would have hit him, and doing with such incredibly speed that he created dozens of after-images of himself and did not even slow down once as headed towards the warships. As he neared the warships, the Raikage jumped up into the air, whereas he did several Kiri nins that were on the ships fired their kunai launchers at him in the air, which he quickly dodged, and then landed on the nearest warship to him. As soon as he landed, the Raikage quickly used his Reipo technique, and with a few seconds he killed entire the ship's crew. After which he brought up both his arms and did a circular motion with them, where lightning started to emanate from his two front fingers tip on both his hands, and then pointed them both at two separate warships, and then cried out, "Nijubayakurai, double white lightning." After which two powerful blots of lightning exploded from the Raikage fingertips and destroyed the two ships he had been pointing to. After the two warships had been destroyed, the other remaining warships quickly fired their volley guns on the ship that the Raikage was on and destroyed it. Fortunately, the Raikage was able to use his Reipo technique, move away from the ship before it was destroyed and appeared on another one, where before the ship's crew could he was on their ship, he stabbed the Raijin into the deck of the ship, where he channeled a massive amount of the Raijin energy into the ship, along with a large amount of lightning chakra with it, and caused a massive explosion and destroyed the ship completely along with its crew. Just as the ship exploded, the Raikage had used his chakra to propel himself high up into the air to avoid the explosion. He then quickly channeled another large amount of lightning chakra into the Raijin and cried out "Sururai," and created another slashing blade of energy that sliced through and destroyed two more Kiri warships that were next to one another. From the shoreline, the Konoha and wave defenders could not help but watch in awe, as they saw the Raikage take on an entire fleet of 20 warships by himself and was winning, since he had already destroyed 6 warships and had but the entire fleet in a state of confusion. But the remaining warships quickly reorganized themselves, and when the Raikage landed down of the open sea water and used the water walking technique to keep above it, they surrounded him where they aimed their volley guns at him, while the Kiri nins on board aimed their kunai lunashers and crossbows at him, where the Raikage just stood still in the middle of them. From the shoreline, those W-tacking could see that the Kiri warship had now surrounded the Raikage. "The Raikage is trapped, we have to help him," cried Choji as he, Lee, and some of the others were about to run off and try and save the Raikage. "I wouldn't do that, yo," said Killer B. "He right, if you guys go out there you just get killed," said Yujito. "But the Raikage needs help, don't you want to save his," said Sakura urgently. "Don't worry, the Raikage isn't that easy to kill," said Fu. "Besides, he's about to make his move," spoke Okatsu. "Neji, Hinata, what going on out there?" asked Kakashi as he wanted to know what Killer B and the others meant. "He doing nothing, he just standing there," and said Neji, but suddenly stopped in shock while a gasp came from Hinata. "Hinata, what is it?" asked Kurenai worriedly. "It's the Raikage, his eyes. They are starting to glow bright blue," said Hinata, where as soon as finished, everyone in the surrounding area felt a massive wave of chakra coming from the Raikage. After which the winds started to blow harder, the sea became rougher, and the sky became darker as dark storm clouds suddenly appeared in the sky as if a massive storm was coming. The Raikage, the life, heated up his arms up into the air and began to move them in circular motions. As he did, the sea became even rougher, and wind was starting to destroy the warships as the ships' masts were breaking. The crews of the ships and the shinobis on board tried to shoot the Raikage, but the ships were rocking too much for them to fire them, and the few that did fire saw that the wind just blew the kunai away. It was then that Konohamaru suddenly shouted over the hard-blowing wind and pointed up to the sky over the Raikage and the Kiri fleet. When everyone looked, they could not believe their eyes, for lightning began to descend down around warships, and the clouds started to twist around, and tornado then began to form his the sky, where the then quickly descended down around the Raikage. The tornado then began to draw in all the Kiri ships around it, sucking them in and destroying them and killing or drowning their crews, as well as scattering the ship's remains down into the bottom of the sea. Back at the shoreline, the wave defenders and the Konoha could only watch in complete and utter awe as the Raikage summoned a massive tornado and completely annihilated the Kiri fleet, just as he was said to have done nearly 4 years ago, when Mizu no Kunai and Kurgakure had sent a fleet of 50 warships and 10,000 men to aid the former lightning daimyo in his civil war. It was in that moment that many of the Konoha made a silent prayer that the Raikage would not side with Orochimaru and his allies in the war, for if he did, Konoha would surely fall. Within minutes of when it came, the tornado dissipated and the wind died down and the sky became clear again. Where once it did, those at the shoreline could see the Raikage standing right in the middle of where the tornado was only moments ago, surrounded by the scattered ship wreckage of the Kiri warships and the floating bodies of some of their crews. At the shore, the Kakashi and the others could only continue to stare at the now destroyed fleet, and the man standing alone in the middle of it, that is, even if you could call him a man. For what they saw made them all actually believe that maybe just maybe all those other rumors that they heard about the Raikage were true, where they said that he was God made into mortal form, and that he could control the heavens and could level entire mountains with a single strike, since from what they just saw almost divine-like. My God, now I understand why Kiri calls him the Arashi no Oni demon of storms, thought an awestruck Kakashi. That was, said Sakura as she tried to describe what she thought, but words could not describe the how she felt or how to describe what she was seeing. Sasuke himself was completely stunned, as he could not believe what he had just seen either, and just continually look out to the horizon, or more specifically at the Raikage, and could only think of one thing: what power. It was then that the Raikage suddenly disappeared in a blue flash again, and reappeared a few feet away from the shore right in front of everyone, which once again caught all the non-Kumo people by surprise at his sheer speed once again. As he slowly walked towards the group, everyone could feel and almost see the dominating aura of power that the Raikage was now being known to have. As he continued to slowly walk, everyone that was directly in front of him immediately parted away so that there was a clear path in the crowd for him to walk through. The Raikage continued to slowly walk by the crowd and walk through the burnt corpses of Kiri shinobis until he came up to a Kiri shinobi who was somehow still alive but was badly burnt on his face, arms, and body. The shinobi who the Raikage was walking to was none other than the Chunin Saji, who had been giving out Raiju to others to the Kiri invasion force. When Saji saw the Raikage heading towards him, he tried to crawl away, but could not, as the Raikage quickly grabbed him by the front collar of his uniform and lifted him up to eye level with one hand. When Saji looked into the cold, merciless blue eyes of the Raikage, a man that his village had come to fear and know as the Arashi no Oni, he could not help but shudder in fear and nearly solid himself when he looked at the Raikage, who might as well have been the Shinigami himself as far as he was concerned. After a moment or more of just looking at Saji, the Raikage spoke in a cold, deadly tone of voice. "What is your name?" A minute or so Saji said nothing, but then was able to work up the courage to speak. "Saji, well Saji, today is your lucky day, because I'm going to let you live and go back to Kiri. Because I want you to deliver a message for me to your Mizukage. Tell the Mizukage and the Mizu Daimyo that from now on Nami no Kuni is under the protection of both Kumo and the Heavenly Alliance. Where should they attack this country again or attack any other country that is a member, an ally of the Heavenly Alliance, or even under its protection, then I will bring the wrath of the heavens themselves down upon them. Do you understand me?" spoke the Raikage in a dangerous tone of voice. "Hi," replied a scared Saji. "Good," said the Raikage, after which he then dropped Saji on the ground and turned around to his shinobis. "Leopard, Panther, heal him, and once he full healed, give him a small boat and enough food and water to make it the Mizu no Kuni." "Hi Raikage-sama," replied Leopard, after which he and Panther went of to Saji and then shunshined body flicker, away with him to treat him and send him on his way. Once Panther and Leopard were gone, Tazuna and Inari went over to the Raikage, where they then went on their knees and lowered their heads on the ground. "Thank you, Raikage Denka. Our country is forever in your debt. We were starting to believe that you would not arrive in time, or you did not accept our petition to join the Heavenly Alliance, and you not come to our aid," spoke Tazuna. Which of course shocked the Konoha's teams at the fact that Nami no Kuni wanted to join the Heavenly Alliance. "As my grandfather said, our people are forever in your debt. If there is anything we can ever do for you, please do not hesitate to ask us. For our country would surely have fallen had you and your shinobis not arrived when you did," spoke Inari. After Inari and Tazuna had finished speaking, the Raikage kneeled down to the two men and whispered something to them that the Konohanins could not hear. Also, since the Raikage was wearing a mask and Inari and Tazuna were in front of him, neither Kakashi nor Neji could read his lips. When the Raikage finished whispering to them, both Inari and Tazuna went pale white as if they had seen a ghost. Inari looked like he was about to say something, but before he could, he quickly controlled him and kept silent. After that, the Raikage stood up again and helped both Inari and Tazuna up on their feet, where he then spoke. "There is no need to thank us, Tazuna-san. My shinobis and I were happy to help you, and the Heavenly Alliance is always eager to have new members and new allies. Besides, when we got both your petition, your message for help 2 days ago, we were already finishing preparation for an expedition to help your country fight off the invasion. We would have been here sooner, both our ship was delayed a bit by a storm and our main fleet fell behind. But they will be here tomorrow with 2 companies of Kumo shinobi, who will be stationed here to help protect you country if Kiri tries anything again, and with food, medicine, and other supplies to help rebuild our homes," spoke the Raikage, after which he then went over to the Konoha group and faced them. Greeting Lee-san, I had hoped to met you again, but I did not think we meet so soon, and I with would be my shinobis, and I saving you and your comrades again, spoke the Raikage. Yash. It is good to see you again, Raikage Denka, and thank you for saving us yet again, Raikage Denka, we are in your debt, spoke Lei, which the Raikage waved him off, telling him it was nothing. He then turned to Guy, Mado Guy, it is an honor to meet you in person, spoke the Raikage respectfully. Your reputation as a shinobi and as a teacher of shinobis is well known and respected in Kumo, considering how well you taught all your students, especially Lee-san. Yash, you honor me greatly, Raikage Denka, with your youthful praise. I can see the flames of youth truly brightly in you, cried Guy, which caused the Raikage to chuckle. After which he then turned to Konohamaru, greeting Konohamaru-san, it is an honor to meet you. I have heard great deal of your exploits over the last few years. You have earned yourself a worthy reputation in the last few years. Thank you, Raikage Denka, sighed Konohamaru respectfully, since after seeing what saw the Raikage do, he thought it best to be respectful to him. The Raikage then went over to Tenten, Mikumo Tenten aka Akami Ken no Konoha, Konoha Blade Mistress. I also heard much about your skill as an assassin, and a swordswoman is highly regarded and respected in my Bolt division. Thank you, Raikage Denka, you are also an excellent as well, said Tenten politely, since from what she saw the Raikage was indeed a powerful swordsman. After that the Raikage went to Shino Kiba, Yamato and Shikamaru and greeted them all respectfully and spoke well of how skilled they were. He even spoke politely to Morgi, Udon and Sai, although he ignored Sakura, Ino, Kakashi, Bor and Sasuke without as much as a word to them. This of course did not sit well with Sasuke, since he found it a blatant disrespect to him and his pride as a shinobi. Finally the Raikage came to Neji and Hinata, who both stiffened slightly when he upped to them. Since although this was not the same Raikage that had ordered Hinata kidnapping and inadvertently caused Neji father death, it still did not change the harsh feelings they had for Kumo. When the Raikage came up to them, he did something that no ever respect him to do, especially the Kumo ninja, nor Neji and Hinata be bow to them, down to them, and spoke. On behalf of my village, Hyuga Hinata and Hyuga Neji, I wish to officially apologize for the wrongs that my village have done to you. In the attempted kidnapping of you, Lady Hinata, and in the death of your father Neji-san, I'm sorry to say that during that time my village greatly shamed itself, and I know it is little comfort to you, but I'm truly sorry for what happened to you both. It took a minute or so for both Neji and Hinata to get over their shock of what just happened, but when it did, Neji spoke up. There is no need for you apologize, Raikage Denka, you're not reasonable for what happened to my father, since you're not the Raikage back then, said Neji respectfully, since he had no real anger towards the Raikage, especially after what he did just now. Maybe so, but I'm still the Raikage, and even though I was not it when the incident happened, I still share the reasonability, since I am the Raikage now, and it is my duty to at least set the rights that my village has done over the years, replied the Raikage. We understand, Raikage Denka, and thank you for saving my life as well as the lives of everyone else here when you are your shinobis arrived, replied Hinata respectfully. There is no trouble, since as I said to Tazuna-san and Inari-san, my forces and I were already preparing ourselves to come to Nami no Kuni had when they asked for our help, replied the Raikage. Wait, you were already getting ready to head here, but why? Blurted out Kiba, where the Raikage turned to him answer. For several reasons, the first being that if Kirigakure and Mizu no Kuni took over Nami no Kuni, they would use it not only as a second front to attack your village, but they would also use it to blockade us from our newest members Yumi no Kuni, Sea Country, and Tsuki no Kuni, Moon Country, as well as our long-standing member Cha no Kuni, Tea Country, and cut off our trading ships with them and cut them from us. Also, the second and more important reason as to why we are here is because of the fact that Lady Daimyo Kayuki of Hana/Yuki no Kuni, Spring/Snow Country, and Shibuki-san, the leader of Takigakure, the Hidden Waterfall, asked me to, replied the Raikage. They asked you to, but why? They have their own shinobis and why would they care? Asked Ino. That's simple, because they knew that their forces would be unable to get here in time and Kumo is closer to it than they are. As for why they would care, that's even simpler. Both Takigakure and Yuki no Kuni have the same hero as Nami no Kuni has, and this is where his gravestone monument is, so it's only natural that they would want to protect the country that his gravestone is. I'm certain you know who I'm speaking about, since he was one of your shinobis until your village banished him and left him to be killed by the Akatsuki, one Uzumaki Naruto, spoke the Raikage harshly as he narrowed his eyes. At the moment the Raikage mentioned Naruto's name, most of the Konohas winced at and lowered the heads. After a minute or two of silence, Shikamaru raised his head and decided to ask something that he had been wondering for a few minutes. Excuse me, Raikage Denka, I know this is troublesome to ask, but you said you got wave message for help 2 days ago, correct? Yes, how did you get here so quickly, since it takes about 3 to 4 days to get here from Kaminari no Kuni by boat depending on the weather. It takes twice as long on land and you didn't use any of your airships since we would have seen it, so how did you get here? Asked Shikamaru. This of course got the attention of everyone else since as usual Shikamaru was right. At this the Raikage just chuckled and spoke. That very astute of you, Nara-san, you certainly live up to your reputation. As for your question, that is how I got here so quickly. The Raikage then point out to a cliff side off the coast to their left. When the crowd looked over to the cliffside, they saw a ship coming from behind the cliff. 8. The ship was a distinctive red and gold color in the shape of a bird. Its bowsprit even resembles the head and beak of a bird. The sail resembles a pair of wings and can be detached to become a glider. And the decorative wooden frill on the aft end of the boat looks like a tail. Altogether, the ship was beautiful in very sense of the word. It's beautiful, said Ino, which everyone else agreed with as they all got a better look at the ship as it sailed near them. That it is, and it is how my shinobis and I got here so quickly, spoke the Raikage with a hit of pride. What is it called? Asked Sai as he looked at the ship, and hoped that later on he could draw the ship, since it was rare to see such a beautiful man-made object such as this, and wanted to at least know its name. It called the Suzaku. She is a one of a kind and is the fastest ship in the world, answered the Raikage. That is quite a clam, Raikage Denka, said Kakashi as he admired the ship, and had to admit it was beautiful, and was indeed ship worthy of any nobility and of it name. 9. It is no clam, Hatake-san, it is a fact, since how else was I able to get here so quickly, and besides it is made out of Tejina wood, spoke the Raikage, shocking Shino, Kakashi, Yamato and Kurenai while confusing the others. So what is this Tejina wood? Asked Konohamaru, where Yamato answered for him and the others. Tejina wood is a very special wood that comes from the Tejina tree, which is extremely rare types of tree that can only be found in Mori no Kuni forest country. The trees are very slow to grow, where it takes up to 50 years to grow to full maturity, and they need constant attention, and are very sensitive to their environment around before they are full matured, and can easily die if not cared properly and need chakra to help be grown. But once they are full grown, they are extremely strong and hard to cut down, since the wood itself is very strong yet it is also very light. A block of Tejina wood is worth a single bar of gold, hence to make an entire ship out of it would cost a fortune, said Yamato, since he knew that to make such a ship was probably enough to bankrupt several small countries. This of course shocked the other younger shinobis as well as many others that heard Yamato explanation. But why would people pay so much for this wood? Even though it is rare and strong, it still doesn't make any sense, asked Tenten. It because of the wood's property, since not only is it very strong where it can take a great deal punishments from stormy weather and explosions. It is also very light, so that it can move very quickly in the sea and is also resistant to most type of ninjutsu attacks due to being grown with chakra. Which is why it is so valued by so many people, spoke Shino. This relation completely stunned the other Konohanins and could only image how much the ship cost to make. But enough about my ship. I think it is now best that we head back to the village and tend to the wounded. Team 12 will stay here and him with the unloading of the supplies on the ship and help bring them to the village, said the Raikage. Where Team 12 quickly acknowledged their orders and shunshined to the ship. Just as the Raikage was about to head to the village with the rest of his shinobis, Kakashi suddenly spoke up. Raikage Denka, please wait, where the Raikage then turned to him. Raikage Denka, if I may ask you, where did you find the Raijin? From our reports, it was said to be lost about 10 years ago. When it and the man who helped stole it fell off a cliff Cha no Kuni, T country, when battle against some of our shinobis, asked Kakashi. I took it after I fought and killed the shinobi named Rokusho Aoi, who I came across by accident. He was a missing nin from Amegakure, Hidden Rain, and was also a missing nin from your village as well if I'm not mistaken, spoke the Raikage. Kakashi nodded, since it was very much possible that he survived the fall off the cliff and into the sea since they never found his body. Raikage Denka, if you would, please hand over the Raijin to us, since the sword belonged to Senju Tobirama, who was one of the great founders of our village and was our Nidaime Hokage, said Kakashi. I am sorry Hatake-san, but I will not, since it was I who fought and killed Rokusho Aoi, not your or any of your village other shinobis. Hence to the victors go the spoils of war, said the Raikage neutrally. I'm sorry Raikage Denka, but I must insist that you hand over the Raijin to me. As I said, the Raijin belonged to Senju Tobirama, was our Nidoime Hokage. Hence it is a treasured heirloom to our village, and it rightfully belongs to our Hokage Lady Tsunade. Since she is the great niece of the Nidoime Hokage and is his only remaining relative, hence we have the right of family inheritance as well, said Kakashi insistently. As I said, Hatake-san, I'll not, as I am under no obligation to hand over the Raijin to your village, since other than the peace treaty our villages signed 19 years ago. We have no other treaties with Konoha, hence I don't have to give you the Raijin if I do not wish to, which I don't, spoke the Raikage neutrally. Raikage Denka, I must insist that you hand over the Raijin to me, said Kakashi forcefully, but immediately regretted it. For as so soon as he tried to order the Raikage to give him the Raijin, a massive killing intent flooded the area. It took everything Kakashi had not to buckle and collapse under the sheer intensity of the killing intent. He also was struggling to breath and couldn't even move his body as he was flooded with images of his bloody and grim demise. What killing intent? It's monstrous, thought Kakashi as he struggled to keep standing up, as he started to curse himself 1,000 times over for being so stupid as to threaten the Raikage. Especially after he just saw him destroy almost half of the Kiri invasion force by himself, and then destroy their entire invasion fleets as well. The rest of the Konoha teams weren't doing any better than Kakashi, as they were now surrounded by Killer Bee and the Raikage other bodyguards, along with the remaining storm nins with their weapons out. They were all struggling to breathe, let alone keep standing up with the Raikage massive killing intent. As they had never felt such an overwhelming killing intent in their lives, even Sasuke was paralyzed by the Raikage killing intent as a cold sweat fell down his face. Killing intent is so strong, it makes the killing intent Orochimaru used back in the Chunin exam look like a joke in comparison, thought Sasuke with twig of fear in his mind. Some of the Konohanists turned around to see how the Wave militia members and the Wave samurai how they were holding. When they did, they saw that the Wave samurai and militia members were in an even worse shape than they were, since the samurai were on their knees breathing heavily and using their swords to keep themselves up, while the Wave militia members were flat on the ground, either unconscious or simply unable to move out of pure terror of the killing intent. As the Raikage stood in front of Kakashi, who was on the verge of collapsing, Kakashi saw that the Raikage now had an aura of energy surround him and his eyes were glowing bright blue, where his eyes were actually emanating lightning from them. 10, much to Kakashi's shock, and he saw that the sky had once again become dark with storm clouds with thunder in the background. You dare try and order me, the Rokudaime Raikage of Kumo around Hatake Kakashi, spoke the Raikage in a dark and ominous tone of voice. You forget who I am, as I am the Raikage of Kumo, while you are merely a jonin for a foreign village, and although you may be a famed and powerful shinobi from where you come from. As far as I'm concerned, you are no more than an ant to me, and if you value your life, you will never try and order me around like that again. For if it weren't for the fact that you and your comrades helped protect Nami no Kuni until my shinobis and I arrived, I would kill you where you stood for what you just did. I would have thought you would be more grateful, consider I helped save you and your people's lives. I suggest that you learn some gratitude, Hatake, as next time I'll not be so merciful, finished the Raikage as the aura around him died down as did the killing intent. His eyes stopped glowing and the sky became clear again. When the killing intent died down, both Kakashi and the other Konohanins breathed in a sigh of relief. I understand, Raikage Denka, said Kakashi, while at the same time he birthed himself at trying to force the Raikage to do something he didn't want to, as he was certain he, Kakashi, nearly got himself killed and probably nearly caused a war between Konoha and Kumo. What the hell was I thinking, he thought. Now considering what you done for Nami no Kuni, I'll allow you and your comrades to stay and rest here for the night. But tomorrow, I must insist that you leave Nami no Kuni and return to your own village, said the Raikage. You're kicking us out, cried Ino in disbelief. Yes, since Nami no Kuni is under our protection, you being here threatens the neutrality of both this country and the neutrality of the Heavenly Alliance, replied the Raikage. But how can you be neutral? You're already involved in the war, since you attacked Kiri twice both here and back the hold and their allies to Orochimaru and the others, cried Kiba. Our attacks on Kiri were not an act of war. The attack on the hold was to rescue mission of the Princess Sachi of Yumi no Kuni, who is to be the next queen of Tsuki no Kuni and an ally to the Heavenly Alliance. As for our intervention here, officially it was in retaliation of Kiri and Mizu no Kuni aggressive expansions against our trading routes in the Central Elemental Sea with other nations. as well as the illegal invasion of Nami no Kuni, who was neutral in this war of yours. And because of Nami no Kuni requested aid from us and petitioned us to be a member of the Heavenly Alliance. While unofficially we did it as a personal favor to Lady Daimyo Kicho and Shibuki-san of Takegakure, said the Raikage. But you recruited Kurenai-Obasan and the others, as well as helped the rebel forces free their prisoners from the hold. That makes you involved, countered Konohamaru. Officially, all I can say to that is that it was simply a coincidence that the rebel forces attacked the hold the same time as us. As for your aunt and her teammates, they simply followed us when we rescued Princess Sachi, who kidnapping was illegal from the start, and we simply dropped you aunt and her teammates back on the shores of Hai no Kuni when we found them on our ship. There is no proof whatsoever that we have any involvement with the rebel forces of Mizu no Kuni and Kurgakure, and we have no alliance with your village. There also no proof that we are in any kind of alliance with the rebel forces of Mizu no Kuni and Kurgakure, which would be against international law in involving ourselves in the internal affairs of another foreign country without their consent. To say otherwise would be conjecture and speculation without any proof to support the claim, since it would be simply our word against yours, as both Kirigakure and Mizu no Kuni know when they accused us of breaking international law. I have already sent letters informing both Kurgakure, Mizu no Kuni as well as their allies as to why we intervened in the illegal invasion of Nami no Kuni, just as we did when we attacked the Holdso to prevent Kiri from accusing us taking sides in your war and retaining our neutrality. Also unofficially, whether we have any kind of alliance with the rebels factions of Kirigakure and Mizu no Kuni is not of any concern to you. Even if we did, it still does not involve Iwa, Oto, Kyusa, and the Hanya clan regardless of their alliance with Kirigakure, since it is their internal matter. As for your aunt and her teammates, as I said to them when my shinobi saved them, I simply did it since I don't like having lives being lost needless and as collateral damage during a military attack, replied the Raikage. Troublesome, you're using political loopholes to keep yourselves out of the war and from taking sides it, said Shikamaru. As the leader of a shinobi village, a kage must be a skilled fighter, tactician, diplomat, and politician, although the last one is a regrettable fact. Besides, is it wrong to use such means to avoid war and the loss of lives? Konoha itself has used similar means. My way at least does not involve lives being sacrificed to keep the peace or to cast out others to save ourselves, sneered the Raikage. This caused many of the Konohanins to wince at the remark to their village history when it came to keeping its peace and security. Now that matter is closed, I believe it is best that we return back to the village, since there are still many wounded there that need medical attention, said the Raikage, after which he and his shinobi shunshined away. Soon after, the Konohanins and the remaining wave defenders started to head back to the village and help with the wounded. For the remainder of the day, the Raikage, his shinobis as well as the wave defenders and the Konoha shinobis helped to deal with the bodies of the dead and care for the wounded, including the wounded Kiri-nins. After the most of the Kiri-nins were cured of the poison and healed of most of their wounds, the Raikage and some of the Storm-nins put chakra-suppressing seals and paralyzing seals on them, so that they would prevent the Kiri-nins from using their chakra, and so that the Storm members could paralyze their bodies if they should try to escape. Fortunately, none of the Kiri shinobis resisted or even tried to make an escape, since they knew if they tried to escape and return home, the Mizukage would have them killed for failing to capture Nami no Kuni. Also, they knew that since the Mizukage would believe they were already dead, then their families would not be harmed for being captured by Kumo. Since it had been decided that once the expedition force came from Kumo, the remaining Kiri forces would be taken aboard the ships and transported to Kaminari no Kuni, and held in an internment camp near one of Kumo's fortresses. Also later on that day, some of the Storm-nins found the exploding notes the Sasuke team had planted underneath the walk path of the bridge. When confronted with this, Kakashi had to explain what Sasuke had done and why he did it. This of course did not set well with the wave defenders, especially since they knew that if the Konoha group had been able to retreat, bridge would have been destroyed and they would have been left to slaughtered. When this revelation came to light, it burned up all the remaining credibility that they had with the people, as well as any that they may have gained when they fought alongside them in the battle. Many in the Konoha group in turn blamed Sasuke for what happened, since he had acted without orders and furthered isolated them from the people. Sasuke just simply ignored them, since he had come pressing things to him to be concerned about. By the end of the day, the body counts was over 580 Kiri shinobis, dead not counting the 500 crewmen and shinobis that were on the warships, and about 220 Kiri shinobis captured. Along with them were 130 dead or wounded Wave militia members and about 28 Wave samurai killed and another 12 wounded. The Konoha group only lost one member to their group Badger, while the rest of them were fairly badly wounded but would live regardless. While the Raikage and his shinobis lost none of their members and they only had a few small wounds and scratches on them. The losses wound have been heavy and their wound have been a lot more seriously wounded, but thankfully, some of the Storm Nins with the Raikage were skilled healers, where they were able to help Hinata Sakura and Ino heal a lot of the wounded from the battle, hence the casualties would have been a lot higher than they were. Later on that night at Naruto's gravestone. Late that night when the full moon was covered behind several large black clouds, a tall dark figure stood in front of Naruto's gravestone. The figure just stood there for several minutes looking down at it and the items that were around it, like the ramen bowl, Neji old headband, the steel plate Shikamaru left, Kiba's picture of him, Naruto, Choji and Shikamaru together, Tenten's silver kunai, Konohamaru goggles, Lee's leg warmers, Sai painting of Naruto and the white orchid that Hinata left. The figure went lift to the photo and the painting to get a better look at them in the dark, but put then back after a minute or two. After which the figure then knelt down and just looked at what was said on the gravestone and ran its through it. Just as the figure had finished running its fingers through the letters of the gravestone, it suddenly felt something coming, where it then quickly disappeared in a swirl of wind. After the dark figure disappeared, 3 more figures appeared in the clearing. 2 of the figures were shorter than the third, but were almost equal in size, and both were female due to the shape of their bodies in the dark. The 3 figures quickly hopped over the large stones across the pond and stood in front of Naruto's gravestone in silence. As they stood there, the full moon came out of the clouds to shine down on the clearing. The clear water reflected the full moon and the bright stars in the sky, and made the clearing all the more enchanting under the moonlight and stars, and the fireflies now flew around it. As the moon appeared from behind the clouds, it also revealed the 3 dark figures to be Kakashi, Sakura, and Ino. Even though they had not been allowed to come with the others when they visited Naruto gravestone, they still wanted to visit it, and thanks to Sai they could. Since before he and the others went to meet Inari men to lead them to the gravestone, Sai had used his Chajugiga, Super Beast's imitation pictures, to create an ink mouse to follow him and the others as they went to Naruto gravestone blindfolded and the back to the camp. After they returned to the camp, Sai then summoned the mouse back to his scroll where it revealed the location of Naruto's gravestone. He had done this because he knew how much it meant to his wife and to Sakura and Kakashi to visit Naruto's gravestone and pay their respects to him. "It's beautiful," said Ino as she looked around the clearing and at the gravestone. "It is, and I'm glad that despite the harsh life Naruto had, there is a place like this to remain the world what kind of person he was. I only wish his body could have been found so that he could at least find rest here," spoke Kakashi soberly. For the next minute or two, the 3 of them just looked at the gravestone and read the words on it over and over again, reminding themselves of the betrayal to Naruto and how they turned their back on a good person when he needed his friends. "Somehow I'm sorry just doesn't make up for what we did," spoke Sakura suddenly. Because it doesn't really, and no matter how much we wish to, Naruto isn't coming back and we can never make up for abandoning him," said Kakashi. As he looked down at his former student's gravestone, seeing it reminded him of him past shame of how he abandoned Naruto for Sasuke, simply because he believed that Sasuke needed it more, due to what happened to his clan and that Naruto could handle it himself, and that he did not really need much help. Sadly, he had been wrong, since Naruto needed just as much help as Sasuke, since his childhood was just as bad if not worse than Sasuke's. He didn't even visit Naruto on the night before he was officially banished from the village, since he believed at the time Sasuke needed more help and needed to know that he could become strong enough to fight Itachi in Konoha. Kakashi thought he could say goodbye to Naruto when he officially was banished, but sadly, that didn't happen. His Naruto left the night before so that he would not become a spectral to the village. Afterwards, when Naruto death spread, Kakashi finally realized how fool he had been and how he had abandoned his student for another simply because he was easier to teach and was more talented than the others. He had abandoned his teammate and student and never tried to train him properly like a real sensei should have, and it led to his death. It was just another failing in a long list of failings in Kakashi life. As he looked at Naruto gravestone, he could also see Naruto face on the gravestone looking at him with shame. He had failed not only as a teacher, but he had failed to protect his sensei's legacy, and he had failed his friends. It was then that Obito words came out of the back of his mind like a specter's ghostly voice. "Those that break the rules and regulations are scum." but those who abandon their comrades are worse than scum, and he was worse than scum. After a few more minutes of just standing at Naruto gravestone, they all took out some incense and lit it where they made a silent prayer for Naruto. After they all left the gravestone one by one, but not before they each said one finally word. "May you find peace in the next life, Naruto," spoke Kakashi. "Goodbye, Naruto," said Ino, who had tears in her eyes. "Naruto, I'm sorry," said Sakura, who also had tears in her eyes. After which, once they crossed the stone pathway on the pond, they left the clearing and head back to their camp. Unknown to any of them, the dark figure that had been there earlier came from behind the shadow of the trees, where he had been watching them, and then disappeared again in a swirl of wind. The next morning, the Konoha group, along with the Raikage and bodyguards, were in the middle of the Great Naruto Bridge, where the Raikage was bidding farewell to the Konoha group. "This is where we part ways, have to say. Please give this to your Hokage and you council. It contains a copy of the letter that we have sent to Kiri, and it allies as well as your ally Suna. It states our reason why we intervened when Kiri invaded Nami no Kuni, and stating that Kumo and the Heavenly Alliance as well as our allies will not enter this war and not take sides in it. We will remain neutral in it," spoke the Raikage as he handed the letter to Kakashi, who nodded. "I understand, Raikage Denka," spoke Kakashi, respectful, since he did not want to be on the receiving end of the Raikage wrath again. Just when the Konoha group were about to leave, the Raikage stopped them and spoke. "Wait, although we are not allies, we are still not enemies either, so I wish most of you luck in the war. Also, even though I have no great respect for your village, I still hope you come victories in your war against Orochimaru and his allies. Since I would not be sorry to see him or his allies, the Yandaime Tsuchikage and the Go-Daime Mizukage, fall, since their crimes against their own people as well as many other people are great," said the Raikage. "Thank you, Raikage Denka, we shall be careful," replied Kakashi as he and the others then turned around and started to run off in the direction back to Konoha. As they traveled through the forests of Hai no Kuni, everyone in the Konoha group as they remained silent as they ran, since they had much to think about after what they saw and learned yesterday. Even though everyone was thinking about a different event, yet all the things had two things in common. They involved the Raikage and Kumo. Also, Kurenai, Choji, Sakura, and Lee were all have a sense of deja vu of last month when they were traveling back to Konoha, after being recued from the hold by Kumo. In which, like before, they could only wonder the reaction of the Hokage and the council, especially certain members like Koharu and Danzo, when they learned what happened in Nami no Kuni and what they had seen yesterday. And like before, it was certain Konoha was going to be in for a big surprise very soon. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you want the next part of this video, like, subscribe and comment down below and turn on the bell notification, and also check out other videos that I have created and enjoy. Stay tuned for more exciting what if stories and other amazing videos coming your way. Until next time, take care, stay curious.